good, YouTube? Welcome back to JY's Adventures. Hope you guys are doing amazing. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Remember, you can accomplish anything you put your mind to. In this video, we got How to Beat the Exploding Heads in Spontaneous by Cinema Summary. So a lot of people asked me to check this out in the comment section. You know what I'm saying? Keep sending me videos. Keep supporting, guys. I really appreciate it, man. I love checking out these videos so much, man. If you're new to the channel, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Fill up my comment section with reaction requests, guys. We gonna see what we got in this one, man. I see the thumbnail. Thumbnail looking wild. If you're new to the channel, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We're gonna just hop right into it. Let's go.
If your classmates started randomly exploding and no one knows who's going to die next, what would you do? We'll have to come up with the most convincing theories and science the shit out of this if we want any chance of staying alive. I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the exploding heads in Spontaneous. This whole class is about to have their minds blown. Mara here is reaching down for her pencil when suddenly the student in front of her bursts, spraying the entire classroom with blood. She sits back up in shock, realizing her classmate has suddenly died and nobody has any idea why. Terrified, the students run out of the building to gather in the parking lot, where Mara finds her best friend Tess and tells her that someone has just exploded. The girl is confused, until she looks down and sees her friend's blood-stained shoes, as they both realize that there's a lot more to this than just a random accident. Later, the class is taken to the police station where the cops interview each of them, trying to find answers. The students' clothes are taken as evidence, and all of the high schoolers are left in a locker room to wait. But nobody has any idea why this is happening. This emo chick gets frustrated, demanding to know what the police want with them, and Mara tells her the cops won't let them go until they're certain no one else will explode. They know she's right, and it's terrifying, because no one has a clue who the next unlucky person might be. That's one down, and 23 more to go.
Oh, we got 23 people.
Okay, math class sucks, but it's never made anyone's head literally explode before. The biggest problem here is that we have no idea why this has happened, and we might be next. First of all, by looking at the blood spray pattern, we can figure out that this girl's blast radius was roughly 4 meters in diameter. That requires a serious amount of internal pressure, but at its strongest, the human heart only pumps blood at the equivalent of 2.3 psi. That's not even close to enough for an explosion like this. But there is one biological function that might explain how this could happen, which brings us to our first theory. The most important thing to realize about this explosion is that there are no bones, no organs, and not one patch of skin that has stayed behind. For that to happen, she would need to explode at a cellular level, or else all these students would be covered in brains and bone fragments. Now, it might surprise you to learn that cells actually do explode on a regular basis, and there are two ways this can happen. One is called necrosis, which is cell death from harmful external factors, and the other is called apoptosis, which is basically a pre-programmed self-destruct button from biological triggers. As an example of this, we all know that as our bodies age, our cells are replaced with new ones, but they all have a hard limit to their lifespan and are designed to self-destruct. Red blood cells die and are replaced every 120 days, while bone cells are killed and replaced every 10 years.
Hey, drink y'all milk, bro. Get that calcium for them bone cell replenishment.
Replaced every 120 days, while bone cells are killed and replaced every 10 years. What's scary is that if every cell in your body has a self-destruct button, then all it needs is the right biological code to trigger them. This is not science fiction, because each cell has an inbuilt receptor which biologists have actually nicknamed the death receptor. Your cells literally behave this way every single day, but on a much smaller scale, and since all cells carry this receptor, it would be a natural starting point for how bone, brain, and organ matter could spontaneously disintegrate into a pool of blood. If I were Mara, I would be trying to learn everything I could about what this girl was exposed to, because it might give us an idea of what external factors would cause this to happen so that we can avoid it. For this theory to make sense, she would probably need to be exposed to an organic compound that was bioengineered to latch onto this death receptor and program cell death throughout your entire body. So I'd be researching medical facilities in the area to see if anything made sense. Medical researchers are already using these cell functions to develop cancer-fighting compounds, so it's not implausible that we're one breakthrough away from being able to hack them to use as a weapon. It just so happens that this town is not far from the University of...
Hey, yeah, I told y'all, bro. I be watching a lot of conspiracy theory stuff outside of YouTube, bro. You know what I'm saying? The next type of war, you know, apart from what's going on, you know, in you know, that side of the world. What side is that? The east of the world? I think so. Apart from that, the next type of war will be a biochemical or bioengineered war. You know what I'm saying? Like diseases and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
Able to hack them to use as a weapon. It just so happens that this town is not far from the University of British Columbia, and they have a top-tier biomedical engineering program that actively experiments with molecular and cellular modification. If there was an outbreak of some dangerous compound that has somehow affected these students, it would be a good place to start looking for explanations. That night, Mara returns home from the police station and lights up a joint to take the edge off. She suddenly gets a text from an unknown number, and it says he has a crush on her. The girl is flattered and tells him not to send any naughty pics, but the guy surprises her with a crooked. She finds it hilarious and continues to text her anonymous crush, knowing she might explode before she ever finds out who it is. The next day, Mara attends her classmate's funeral, but it's too depressing for her to handle. Looking for an escape, she pays a visit to these drug dealers in her class who suggest she try magic mushrooms, and the girl agrees.
Oh, let's get high.
The friends go to a diner where Mara dumps the shrooms straight into her drink, and it's a terrible idea. She's never done this before, but after what they've been through, she's willing to try anything.
I got
That's
offered
when this
shrooms
boy
and I
approaches,
passed.
asking if he can join them. It's their classmate Dylan, and her friend scoots over for him to sit down. Suspicious, Mara asks why he's talking to them, and the guy explains he would have approached her at the funeral, but felt it was bad timing. Suddenly, she realizes he was the unknown number she was chatting with, and Dylan explains that he wanted to let her know how he feels before it's too late. Flattered, Mara asks him if he'd like to hang out, and he's happy to.
That's how you be a Sigma, bro. You know what I'm saying? You shoot your shot before your head explodes.
Feels before it's too late. Flattered, Mara asks him if he'd like to hang out, and he's happy to take up her offer. They spend the rest of the night together as she comes down from the shrooms. But that's when the boy surprises her, asking if she'll go to the homecoming football game with him. Mara wasn't expecting this, and takes a moment looking for a good reason to turn him down, but can't think of any. Deciding she might actually like him, the girl agrees to go to homecoming. But this relationship is going to blow up in their face. The next night, they sit in the bleachers, and she tells him how these three players line up to spell out, "We love cocks." It's a silly gag they do every game, and she wants to catch the moment on camera, but that's when something goes wrong. The whole crowd stands up in horror and escapes from the bleachers, revealing that one of the players has exploded. Dylan takes her by the hand and leads the girl out of there, running away as fast as they can. Another student has died, and that's 2 down, with 22 more to go. Okay, this thing is starting to spread. At this point, we have no choice but to assume that it will happen to more people, and anyone could be next. As scary as this is, there might actually be a silver lining here, because now we have twice as much data to figure out what might be causing this. If I were in this situation, I would be studying both of these students' lives under a microscope like my life depended on it to find everything they have in common with each other. Now, as I mentioned earlier, for an explosion this dramatic, there has to be an external factor causing it. And the first common factor between these two students are drugs. It turns out that Caitlin was known for smoking copious amounts of weed, and there's also a good reason to think that Mr. Love here was a chronic user as well. Look at him here on picture day. Firstly, nobody has a reason to be this happy at school, but the real giveaway here are his pupils. He has bright light shining into his face, which should make his pupils constrict, but if you look closely, his pupils are way bigger than they should be. This is exactly what you would see if someone was high as a kite, and that means we have a common factor for 2 spontaneous deaths. These kids were in the same school, same class, and probably had the same dealers too, because Mara here was told that they only sell to their own classmates. Now, drugs are dangerous, but they're not this dangerous, so it's much more likely that they've been contaminated with a toxic foreign substance that's causing the explosions. This theory actually still fits with our previous idea about a bioengineered compound that could have leaked from the university, but it's being transmitted through drugs instead. In a 2019 study, more than 1 in every 3 high schoolers admitted to having tried marijuana. That means in a graduation class of about 234 kids, 86 of them have tried drugs and are therefore at risk of exploding, including Mara here. This is an unacceptable risk, and everyone should be staying as far away from drugs as possible until we can confirm that they're safe enough for us to ruin our lives with. The smartest thing to do is get a
if they're safe enough for if they're safe enough for us to ruin our lives with. Hey, this bad funny, bro. Hey, imagine your first hit. You smoke for the first time and then
we can confirm that they're safe enough for us to ruin our lives with. The smartest thing to do is get a list of every single one of these drug dealers' clients. Because if the people who explode are all on this list, then it's going to be much easier to track down the source. The next night, Mara is waiting to be picked up, but is surprised when an ice cream truck arrives at her house. Confused, she looks inside and sees Dylan step out. The boy explains he was saving up for a college car, but when he realized they all might die soon, he decided to buy the most ridiculous thing on the lot. Holding his hand out, Dylan asks if she's ready to go, and the girl takes it, stepping into the truck. They go to a memorial party their classmates are hosting, and everyone's getting wasted in honor of their lost friends. The girl approaches Dylan, asking him to take a walk with her, and he's more than happy to leave the party. Outside, the guy notices that Mara is drinking straight tequila and suggests that maybe alcohol is what's causing them to explode. As a joke, the girl throws her cup into the air just in case his theory is right. It sounds completely ridiculous, but that's when she gets serious and asks what he really thinks is killing the students. Dylan has no idea, but points out that he's noticed only the seniors have died so far. It takes the girl by surprise, and as they both think about how either of them could be next, the students have a moment. Mara steps up to the boy, and seeing their opportunity, they start kissing. But everything's about to go horribly wrong. Suddenly, they hear people screaming from the party and watch as their classmates run away in terror. Mara and Dylan head back into the house to find out what's going on, and quickly realize it's happened again. Another classmate has exploded, and they're shocked to find out who it is. That's 3 down, with 21 more to go.
I like how he uses the emoji.
This is a serious problem. So far, we've established that drugs might be the cause of this, but Cranberry here makes that theory harder to prove. And yes, her name is Cranberry. I wish I was joking. Before exploding, she was last seen at the party with a cup of alcohol, so she might have been exploring her rebellious side. With school being cancelled and death around any corner, it's very possible that she could have been offered drugs and exposed herself to the toxic substance. Now, so far, there are 2 things we know for certain. The first thing is, whatever is causing this must have a delayed effect, like a virus. It infects your body without showing any clear symptoms, and this delay could be for days, weeks, or even months. We know this because the students appear to be exploding at random times and aren't doing anything obvious to trigger it, so this allows us to look at factors that we wouldn't otherwise consider. The second thing we know is that this virus has a way of taking a normal biological function and hacking it to make it do something that should be impossible. That means to find what's causing this, we need to look for a simple biological condition with delayed onset that can turn into a deadly explosion. This is where things get interesting, because there's nothing more common or explosive in the human body than the bubble guts. In the human intestine, we have something called gut flora, which is a type of bacteria that makes enzymes, helping us break down and absorb the food we eat. This process produces gas, which we release as farts on an average of 5 to 15 times per day. Now, for someone who has an irritable
they got somebody guilty in the comment section farting up the place.
on an average of 5 to 15 times per day. Now, for someone who has an irritable bowel, this process can go terribly wrong. If they consume something that has inedible sugars like FODMAP carbohydrates, it will cause severe inflammation, which is like adding gasoline to a fire. The colon bacteria quickly ferments the inedible sugars and overproduces more gas than your body knows what to do with. It just so happens that about 1 in 6 people have irritable bowel syndrome and experience symptoms that come and go spontaneously over several days. This could mean that these explosions were all triggered by bad cases of IBS. Their guts were inflamed, and there was a traffic jam in the exit tunnel. Then, the mysterious toxin hacked their cellular biology, which amplified their symptoms, causing them to burst into a bubble of gas. Essentially, these kids died farting, which would explain why the timing of each explosion is different. It would also depend on what the students were eating before they died. Caitlin may have decided to drink too much soda that day, and it triggered the virus to activate her IBS, which became explosive. Harry Love was definitely undersized for a football player, so it wouldn't be surprising if he had recently started using protein supplements to try bulking up. If he had IBS, this would have been a serious trigger, and it wouldn't take him long to explode. The other students haven't exploded yet because either they don't have IBS or because they haven't had enough gassy foods yet. For example, here at this party, they're probably all drinking beer, which is surprisingly low in FODMAP carbohydrates. Mara is drinking straight tequila, which is also very low. On the other hand, Cranberry here didn't seem like the kind of student to go out drinking. And since beer is an acquired taste, she's most likely drinking tequila with tons of sweet sugary chasers mixed in. This would have been
mixed
very
with
high in
soda.
FODMAP carbohydrates, triggering IBS, and that's why she's the only one at the party to explode.
exploded.
Now, a virus that hacks your everyday afflictions and turns them into the most extreme possible versions of itself is pretty crazy. But we have to appreciate that despite this being impossible, students are still exploding nonetheless. This theory helps us connect a lot of mysterious factors together, and if we understand it, then we can avoid it. The next day at school, the girls are called into the office to meet with Agent Rossetti. She's a detective that's been assigned to investigate the exploding
Okay, we got
heads
an
and
agent.
asks them if they're the culprits. The girls make it clear they have
Hey,
nothing
how?
to do with it, but want to know if there are any current theories for why this is happening. The woman tells them they're getting close to an answer, but has a very strange request. Agreeing to help, Mara asks the woman what she needs, and the agent tells her to get her hands on all the drugs they can find. Later that day,
Okay,
the girl
find the
visits her
drugs.
drug-dealing classmates and tells them the agent wants their supply, thinking it might be what's causing the explosions. Suspicious, the dealer makes her promise not to reveal their identities, and her brother asks for a moment to talk it over privately. The siblings agree they need to sell it to get rid of the evidence, and turn towards Mara to ask how much she wants. Smiling, the girl
money.
tells them she wants their whole supply, courtesy of the US government. It's too good an offer to turn down, and the
Oh.
dealers are more than happy to take her to their hidden stash. They drive away in their car
get 'em-
towards their
let's get
hide,
that money.
but Mara notices they've also brought their suitcases. The guy explains they're moving out, thinking that the town of Covington might have something to do with the exploding symptoms. They ask her how she's been dealing with the situation, and she tells them she's been seeing this boy and really likes him. Checking her
Okay.
phone, she notices that Dylan has agreed to meet her by the river, but that's when everything goes wrong. Suddenly, the brother explodes in the driver's seat, and the sister panics as she tries to get control of the
What?
car, but bursts into a pool of blood, making
Both
that
of them
5 down
went.
with 19 more to go. Later, Dylan arrives in his ice cream truck and discovers the crashed car. Worried, he looks inside for
It's the
Mara,
girls.
but there's no sign of her anywhere. The boy thinks she might have exploded,
probably
but as he
crawled
looks
out.
around, he notices a bloody handprint on a rock. Dylan follows the trail through the woods and finds her standing in a river, washing off the blood from her clothes. Rushing up to his girlfriend, he jumps into the water and gives her a hug, thankful that she's still alive. Okay, these
feel the
kids
same
are
way.
in way over their heads. This situation is getting a lot more complicated, and if Mara here was paying attention, she'd realize that this might be a government conspiracy. 3 high school students have spontaneously exploded, and the only response has been to hold the survivors at the local police station and send a single FBI agent days later.
find out
this
what's
is
going
such
on.
an inappropriate response that it actually tells us a lot more about what's going on here.
They should have put them in a facility like instantly, like as soon as the second person went, all of them go into a facility to get tested or something like that. That's probably what happened.
This
What
is
would've
such an
happened.
inappropriate response that it actually tells us a lot more about what's going on here. If this really happened, the CDC would have been called in to investigate, and the entire US government would be acting on this with high priority. Now,
Right.
the FBI has a branch called the Weapons of Mass Destruction Directorate, which investigates
Okay.
exactly these kinds of threats.
The
According to
WMD.
US law, a weapon of mass destruction is defined as anything that causes death through the release of toxic chemicals or an infectious organism. By their own definition, students exploding into pools of blood would definitely be of interest to them.
WMD.
The way they would handle this would involve a lot of biosecurity, ensuring that any potential sources of the cause are kept under tight control. The shocking truth is that none of these standard procedures have happened, and it's strong evidence that the government already knows what's causing this and
They
are
already know
trying
what's
to
going
cover
on,
it up.
but they're
The
trying to
key to
hide it.
solving this mystery is figuring out why this woman would ask 2 random high schoolers to score local drugs for her. It's sketchy as hell, because the FBI has the resources to do this job better than anyone, but there
themselves,
might be one
right.
explanation that helps this all make sense. Since they don't want to alert the public, they aren't able to raid these drug dealers because they would need to first provide evidence that drugs are being stored there. This is why Agent Rossetti is asking
Let
for
the
Mara's
kids
help.
do it.
She needs to score drugs to confirm it's been exposed to the leaked virus, and then raid them to cover up their mistakes without alerting the media. Calming down, Mara checks her backpack for dry clothes, and the boy tells her he's already told the agent about the new explosions. She thinks it was a smart idea, but that's when Dylan notices a man in a hazmat suit watching them in the distance. It's
They already-
unsettling, but the students suddenly realize they're surrounded as more people come
Here
out of
comes
the
all
woods
the
and grab them,
guys.
dragging the kids away. Later, Mara wakes up on a hospital bed and a doctor introduces herself, explaining that she's here to help. The girl looks around,
I don't
trying to
trust
figure
her.
out where she is, and that's when she spots Dylan in the bed next to her. They're separated by a plastic tarp, and it's clear the situation has gotten too dangerous to deal with on their own. The next day, Mara finds out that the government has quarantined her entire senior class for study, hoping they can stop the students from
Like I
exploding.
said they would.
The kids spend most of their time being interviewed as they wait for something to happen, but have no idea when they'll be released. Frustrated, this girl suggests they should break out, but someone tells her he's already tried and it's not going to work. This jock insists that they're going to be cured here, but Tess offers an alternate theory, reminding them that the protesters outside think that they're all cursed. Dylan suggests that since they're all seniors, graduating might break the spell, but no one's sure if they'll live long enough to find out. Later that day, a representative from Washington is brought in to talk to the kids, and he reassures them they're doing everything they can to find a cure, but the kids aren't impressed.
If he
After
says
showing them a
so.
nifty PowerPoint, he asks if they have
A
any
nifty
questions, and that's when Mara tells him straight to his face that he's full of building their courage. The students begin to speak out as the jock insists they need solutions, not politicians. They all begin chanting in solidarity, but suddenly the boy explodes all over his friends, ruining everyone's day. That's 6 down, with 18 more to go.
Rip.
Okay, this is unfortunate. So far, everyone who's died was exposed to the virus through drugs, but there's no indication
No,
that this
drugs,
jock was
nothing.
a stoner. Now, there's one angle to this that we haven't explored yet, and with so many different factors involved, we should at least try to rule some things out. Right now, the town is protesting because they're scared that it's going to infect them and think this is a curse. This idea sounds completely ridiculous, but given the situation, it's not as ridiculous as you might think. If we go back and look at all of the people who died so far, the
Right.
most frustrating thing is that we can't prove any common link between these 6 dead students.
No,
People are literally
nothing in
exploding
common.
into thin air, and when a situation is this unscientific, we have to at least consider the alternative.
supernatural.
The best thing to do is eliminate reasons right now, and that's why we have to talk about Becky here. This girl has avoided attention so far, but we have a good reason to be suspicious of her. When the first student exploded, everyone was taken into the police station for questioning. Nobody knew what was going on, but if you watch her body language, you can see that she's not thinking about her dead classmate, she's nervous about being interrogated. The girl even walks up to the door and gets cranky about being kept here like she has a guilty conscience. Now,
The goth chick did some voodoo on the class, y'all. Hey, I know there's a meme that you want a big titty goth chick, bro. Be careful. Be careful out there, my Sigmas.
thinking about her dead classmate, she's nervous about being interrogated. The girl even walks up to the door and gets cranky about being kept here like she has a guilty conscience. Now, days later, when they keep the students in quarantine, they all have interviews with the scientists, but Becky is the only one who says she isn't scared, she's angry. If you ask me, given how random the victims and timing of the explosions are, we have to find out if this
She got
girl
a
might
death
secretly
note?
have some kind of death note that she's killing her classmates with. When you factor in that these deaths are happening just to kids in this specific class and this specific town, it forces us to consider if it only looks random because it's personal, and outside of science, it's the only explanation. That night, another student explodes in their bed, and it's clear that this quarantine is not doing any
gosh.
good. The scientists desperately work around the clock to study the patients, and finally develop their first trial cure. Giving the kids medication, they wait to see which ones work, but after testing several different pills, 3 more students die, making that 10 down with 14 more to go. After
They
weeks of
just keep
experimenting,
dropping like
the scientists
flies.
create one last version of the pill, and luckily it seems to be working. For now, the kids have stopped exploding and have managed to find a treatment for the condition.
Whoa,
They're
we got a
finally
treatment.
released from the research lab to reunite with their families, but they'll soon find out it's not as effective as they thought. The next morning, Mara takes her anti-exploding medication and decides to invite her
Anti-exploding.
boyfriend over to hang out. She's happy that they're free from quarantine and tells them that the best way to celebrate is to take their relationship to a whole new level. The boy is shocked, admitting that he's a virgin, but she doesn't care, and they finally get to enjoy some privacy. The next day, Mara heads
Get
into
it, my
school,
guy?
but soon realizes that her senior classmates are the only ones there. The rest of the students have moved to another building so that there's no chance of infection, but the teacher makes it clear that
Whole
they
new
have to try
building.
their best to graduate. Later, she goes to Agent Rossetti's office, who personally checks her blood pressure, and the girl wonders why she's still here if the students have been cured. The woman assures her that this is just protocol, but Mara realizes that the police think more kids are going to blow up, and the pill might be a placebo. Later in class, the scientist comes in to talk to the seniors, explaining that the pills they've taken will only treat their condition, not cure it. To illustrate how
Oh,
it
it's
works,
just a
the woman
treatment.
asks for a volunteer and calls this jock to the front. She instructs
So they're gonna have to keep
To illustrate
taking
how it works, the woman asks for a volunteer and calls this jock to the front. She instructs him to pat his head and rub his belly while jumping on one leg. And the other students think he looks ridiculous, but the joke's on them. Suddenly, the jock explodes in front of the class, setting off a chain reaction as more people start bursting open.
Whoa!
Everyone panics, running out of the
chain
room as fast as
reaction?
possible, and Mara tries to escape but gets
I
pushed to
remember
the
doing
ground.
that.
Her boyfriend
doing
pulls
it
her up to her
ever again.
feet and
I remember doing that, bro. I ain't ever doing it again. My head might explode,
and
bro.
Mara tries to escape but gets pushed to the ground. Her boyfriend pulls her up to her feet and leads her into the hallway as they look for the exit,
go.
terrified they might be next. That's 19 students
Win,
down
boyfriend.
with 5 more to go. Okay, these scientists f***ed up big time. They've released everyone from quarantine, but somehow developed a treatment that's making things much worse. Based on our theory, this medicine would be an antibiotic to combat bacterial infections in the gut that's causing explosive gas. The
Right.
problem with antibiotics is that they don't just kill infectious bacteria, they also kill good ones that help you maintain a healthy digestive system. Here's where it all goes wrong, because if the medicine is killing your healthy bacteria, then it actually leads to more infectious bacterial overgrowth, making these kids explode faster than ever before. Now, it's important to understand that these scientists were already doomed to fail. The average cost for developing a new drug in the US is $985 million.
Jeez,
Clinical
that's a lot of
trials are
cash.
insanely expensive because they need to be vigorously tested before human trials can begin, or else
Right.
these compounds could destabilize your immune system. Instead, these scientists began with human trials with only a handful of students to test them on, so
They
it was a
didn't know-
recipe
they
for
didn't-
disaster.
they didn't do
All of
enough
this
tests.
helps us explain why more students started exploding after taking the medicine. This is where the theory gets a lot more exciting, because science has shown there's one activity that actually improves your immune system, and that is sex. It's so effective that people who are sexually active on a regular basis statistically take far fewer sick days than anyone else. Now, the
Oh,
immune
hold
system's main job
We learn something new every day, guys.
statistically take far fewer sick days than
Okay.
anyone else. Now, the immune system's main job is to identify things that can make us sick, meaning it distinguishes your healthy bacteria from invasive ones. If it mistakes our good bacteria for an enemy, it can cause a dangerous type of inflammation in the intestines called colitis, which might be causing
Colitis.
these kids to explode
explode.
prematurely. That's why I think the students who aren't exploding are the ones who have recently had sex. And the ones who are exploding now are virgins who don't have extra protection to their immune systems. The problem here is that sex is not a cure-all. It's just a preventative measure,
Just
and
to
these health
prevent.
benefits take a long time to improve. Mara has already been sexually active for a while, whereas Dylan has only just had his first experience. This means she's a
that's
lot
why
more
he's
protected
still
than he
alive.
is.
He
And if
is,
they want to
okay.
make sure they both live long enough to graduate,
They
they
gonna
need
have
to be
to
hooking
keep
up as many
smashing
times
it.
as they can to increase his chances
They gonna
of
have to
survival.
keep smashing
Unfortunately
it.
for Dylan, it might be a little too late. But at the very least, if I'm going to explode, I'd rather it be in the arms of someone I love than anywhere else. Everyone is trying to get to the
Wholesome.
exit as the
Very
crowd
wholesome.
surrounds the doorway, but that's when another student explodes. It looks like
There
they're
was
trapped
another
here,
one.
and the mob go looking for another way out, dragging Dylan along with them. Mara's
They got
terrified that they've been
separated.
separated, when this boy in homemade armor grabs her hand and leads her in the other direction, but suddenly stumbles and falls to the ground. He quickly recovers, but just as he stands up, his entire body bursts from inside his suit. That's now 23 students exploded and 1 more to go. Mara runs away in terror and finally manages to exit the building, taking a moment to catch her breath. That's when her boyfriend runs up and the two of them embrace, relieved to see that they've both survived. It feels like everything will be alright, but suddenly Mara's vision goes completely red. Dylan has exploded, and that's 24 students down, and anyone could be next. That evening, she's taken in to be treated for her injuries, but with her boyfriend dead, Mara is
Not the good guy. He was such a good guy. Not Dylan. No. No.
That
I feel it
evening,
for Mara,
she's
man.
taken in to be treated
I
for
feel
her
it for her.
injuries, but with her boyfriend dead, Mara is completely shutting
She
down.
depressed,
she can't
dog.
handle the trauma and decides to stop
depressed.
taking the pills, waiting for her
She
time
wants to go
explode.
too,
The
damn.
next day, the girl gets drunk and visits her best friend's house to hang out, but Tess is not in the mood. Her friend insists she has to focus on graduating because it's the only way she'll be able to leave town, and hopes it will cure them of the exploding virus. Walking away to the school van, Tess gets inside and says goodbye to her before shutting the door. Later that day, Mara is in her bedroom and finds out she's been invited to the school prom. Switching tabs, she discovers a Reddit post about the seniors and reads a comment accusing her of causing the explosions. She was the only student who witnessed every single death, and it makes enough sense
They
that
think
she
it's
can't
her.
help feeling guilty. It's prom night, and Mara hangs outside to deal with her guilt when her best friend sits down to join her. She sends a text as an apology for earlier and explains she's going to leave town tonight. The girls realize this is goodbye, and that this might be the last time they ever see each other. Deciding to join the party, Mara walks into the school gym, but is surprised to see people wearing graduation caps. She asks what's going on and finds out that the school's hosting a mixed event for the seniors to graduate. The students go up to receive their diplomas, but Mara suddenly climbs on stage and grabs the microphone, apologizing for making their classmates explode. The girl believes she was the cause of the curse and walks away feeling miserable when the next student takes the microphone and claims she's the reason her classmates are exploding. Other seniors chime in around the gym, taking responsibility for their friend's death, and Mara begins to realize that everyone feels exactly the way she does. Leaving the prom, she heads to the cemetery and walks up to Dylan's grave to pay her respects. It's tragic, and the girl—
Hey, that man is a legend, bro. Dylan, he goes down in our hearts in the adventure gang, bro. He is a legend.
She heads to the cemetery and walks up to Dylan's grave to pay her respects.
R.I.P. Dylan,
it's tragic,
bro.
And the girl lays down on the ground, desperate to be with her boyfriend one last time. That's when Dylan's mom approaches and decides to join her, keeping the girl company. Mara starts breaking down in tears, telling the woman that she feels guilty for surviving, but the mother reassures her that life can be random, and she shouldn't blame herself for anything. It's all
Random
they can do
indeed.
to deal with the grief. And the girl finally has the courage she needs to move on with her life.
Win, Mom.
By the end of the school year, 30 more students die. But the government fine-tuned the pills so no one will explode as long as they keep taking them for the rest of their lives. With a new perspective on life, Mara decides to leave home and says goodbye to her family before driving away in her ex-boyfriend's ice cream truck.
But what do you think?
Wow,
how
that's
would
how
you
it
be
ends.
spontaneous? Let me know with a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like and subscribe, and check out the How to Beat playlist for more videos like this. Until next time, have a damn good day.
Legend, bro. For some reason, legend, bro. Yo, this was crazy, fam. Imagine, bro, you're just in class. I know a lot of y'all in school still. Imagine you're just in class, and all of a sudden somebody next to you. Hey, yo, that'd be the craziest thing ever, bro. Hey, W. Dylan, W. The main character, I think the name was Mara. I don't know, man. This was a tough one, bro, because, you know, like, this was kind of like beyond our span of beating it, because we don't have the medical and the scientific stuff for us to beat it up ourselves. We'd just have to, you know, put our bets on the government developing a cure or a treatment for it, just like the movie did, bro. Fire video though, banger video. Let me know what was your favorite part from the video. Let me know what you thought of my reaction. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.